Hi there YouTube, I'm Scotty Deluxe, but on this channel you can call me Quetch. Here we cover all things current Final Fantasy XI. Today we got the update notes for December. I haven't looked at them yet, so we're going to take a look at those together. In addition to that, we have the campaign information. We are actually currently lacking the login point info, so that will be in the next video, which goes over after the patch actually drops. So let's get started with something sort of time sensitive. The next Prime for Adventure is on Wednesday, December 7th, so this video should be going up on Tuesday. If you want to support the community team, tune in on Wednesday to check out the community stream. That's Primed for Adventure. On to the campaigns. So, here we are with December, Tuesday, December 13th. Campaigns are going to start. And once again, we have Chain Experience Points and Chain Capacity Point bonus campaign. I mentioned, I think it was the last video, that we've been getting far more of these than is typical, which makes sense because we got the new master levels as well. So most of the endgame player base has had their job points for a while, especially returning players, new players, or people leveling up a new job really want to get their job mastery with capacity points, which is sort of like not phased out, but players need to get through this quickly and then get some master levels. You don't necessarily need to be max master level, and most players aren't max master level yet, but they've been giving us these bonus point campaigns in order to get any sort of other player caught up. So again, double EXP and double capacity. Bear in mind, this is not the plus version, so it doesn't affect things such as EXP rings. Chain Monstrosity, of course, is included with that. Sort of outdated content. Increased Seal and Crest drop rate campaign alongside the additional Seal Battlefield Spoils campaign, which is the Predator. So once again, eye seals. If you don't know what those are, they are coupons you can trade in to help you upgrade your Empyrean gear, with Sortie being one of the premier pieces of endgame content right now. You don't want to get locked up by not being able to upgrade your Empyrean gear to its earlier stages. They're giving you extra seals drop rate, and they're giving you the eye seal fights. This is another one that they're giving us lots of. So SE is definitely paying attention to players' needs right now in terms of capacity points, eye seals. Definitely, if you need to get caught up, they're providing the campaigns to do that. Next up, we have double Simulacra campaign. This is the Simulacra segments. These Simulacra segments are used for starting a skirmish. For the most part, you can just buy these in the AH. They're generally pretty cheap at all times. There's not much use for this campaign any longer, but they will be cheaper during this campaign. Next up, Delve Campaign Plus. Big Guild Maker. Here, you get double the amount of Muoplasm while defeating Delve monsters and clearing Delve. If you're trying to make an Idris or an EPO, make sure to take advantage of these campaigns in order to get the Muoplasm you need to make those ultimate weapons. In addition to that, you can sell the mats that you can buy with the points for decent gil. During campaign, the prices of those come down a bit. I typically just either stock up some points or some mats, wait till about a month or two outside of the Delve campaign, and then sell those items to kind of maximize the profit from them. Excellent campaign. Love these. Abyssea campaign. This is, if you haven't played in a while or have never claimed this, you will get 11 varieties of Atma, 1 Lunar Abyssite, and 100,000 Krur. That Lunar Abyssite allows you to have an extra Atma on while you're in Abyssea. Don't miss this one if you don't already have it. Surge Walk campaign, we have another Guild Maker. So this is where the fights in Walk of Echoes are always surged, which means that they have better drop rates for items and triple EXP and capacity points. Not super relevant, but the items obtained here are still very valuable and very used. So keep an eye on that if you're trying to make some gil. Next up, the Wilds Keeper Reeve campaign. It's a Guild Maker, yet it's not as valuable as the other two we've mentioned here, Delve and Surge Walk, but you can continue to make gil by getting the 4 pinches of HP bail that drop from this on each fight. In addition to that, the respawn time for the Notorious Monsters is reduced, so you can just kind of cycle through the different Wildskeeper Reeves mobs. It's very good for getting basic bailed. I recently had to do this during the last campaign in order to get enough bail to trade in my Adeline ring. During the Aman Trove campaign, I managed to get an EPAM ring, so I no longer need my Korea, and I've moved over to the Weatherspoon ring for that extra fast cast. If you need to trade in your ring, you may need the extra bailed too. Do some Wildskeeper Reeves, and it seems to be the fastest way for me. Next up, Alter Ego Expo. This is where your alter ego's maximum HP and MP are increased, and they have stronger resistance to status ailments. This is not the plus version where you get 1 free raise on your trusts when they die. However, this is still good if you're trying to do things like solo omen bosses. And just in general, you'll notice your trusts are tankier and run out of MP less often. Campaign Fiesta. Campaign basically drops items of low value. I wouldn't call this much of a guild maker. This is really old content at this point and is ignored by most players. Next up, Skirmish Stone and Arcane Glyptics campaign. When this one comes up, I like to bring up the guns with the gauges, in particular that bards still use as a best in slot item for their singing sets. You need that, and this allows you to get the maximum roll on the gun with the gauges much easier during this campaign. And that is roughly the only item that I'm aware of that's still being used in endgame. Incursion. Now, Incursion is a type of content where you fight waves of mobs, and the bosses of those drop chests that are used to spawn, I think it's the tier 2 Ryzen Jima mobs for Aeonic weapons. It's always good to have a stock of those, as well as you can get your capacity point cape during Incursion. It's from the NQ box, and you open it up and you have a chance at getting the cape, and then the cape has a random amount of capacity point bonus up to 50%. I think mine's like 48 or 49. I just stopped opening them from there. Get a bunch of people together, do some Incursion, especially if you're looking for a cape for CP, or you need boxes for Ryzen Jima. Stock up on them here and kind of never look back again. Next up, Skirmish Frenzy Campaign Plus. So they did give us the increased Simulacra segment campaign, as well as they're giving us Skirmish Frenzy Campaign Plus. I'll post a video in the card up above on this video linking to what to do with all your Mogpels. In there, I make a pretty good case for what to do with the wings that drop from this content, which is Polkadot wings and Melodot wings. Click that link if you want to know more, but essentially there are important endgame items that are still somewhat gated behind Skirmish, and during Skirmish Frenzy Campaign Plus, you basically have a higher chance of getting all of those things. Gaia's Feet Campaign Plus. Defeating monsters in Eska areas will yield double the amount of Eska Silt, extra Escalixirs, Pellucid Stones, Fern Stones, and Top Stones. This is not for gear. Gear is the next one. Ryzen Jima Gaia's Feet Equipment Campaign. For the duration of the campaign, vanquishing notorious monsters in Ryzen Jima will yield an additional personal reward from the notorious monsters loot table. These two things I like these together. Sometimes they do them separately, but they should really just combine this campaign at this point. Walking away with extra Fern Stones and Top Stones and Escalixirs would have been way more important during Gaia's Feet's sort of height. But yeah, doing Ryzen Jima content will yield more rewards overall. Sometimes this helps when you're looking for particular pieces of loot from the mobs, but in general, they're spammable enough nowadays that you can get the piece you're looking for. Moving on. Abjuration Dial campaign. They shove an Abjuration Dial in your inventory. You will rarely ever get one. By using this on a Gabi box, you will rarely ever get an Abjuration you're actually looking for. I usually just throw them out. Monster Rearing campaign. Reared creatures will be twice as likely to transform for the duration of the campaign. Maybe one day I'll make a guide for which monsters you could target with Monster Rearing. But for now, if this applies to you, you already know, and hopefully this is helpful. Chocobo Digging Skill Increase campaign. For the duration of the campaign, Chocobo digging skill will be more likely to increase each time your Chocobo digs. I did a couple of Chocobo digging streams a little while back and found it very... Now this was when the hyper digging and the skill increase were up at the same time. Obnoxious. Probably a good hour to 2 hours in order to use up all of my stamina for the day on my Chocobo. I did get like 2 heavy metal plates, which was actually kind of surprising. Yeah, try it for the nostalgia. There's not much value to be had in Chocobo digging any longer. Moving on to the Macrocosmic Orb campaign, another use of the increased drop rates. This one is a good gill maker. Basically, you have a chance at things like HQ Abjurations and other valuable items that drop from these. They're not as consistent as the other gill makers that I've been mentioning previously in this video, but they're fun, they're swingy, and the one thing you have to worry about, though, is the rewards are not personal. So if you're going in with another player, you're going to have to split those. And while areas Delve, for example, you're both going to be earning Muoplasm at the same rate. But it is fun if you haven't done it, and sometimes the like high value drops are there. Lastly, Ambuscade Gallantry campaign. This stacks with your Abdallah Seal. This gives you double the amount of gallantry you earn on your first ambu during a day, real life day, and again will stack with your seal, so you get 6 times the amount of gallantry for that day. It allows you to cap gallantry very quickly, and hopefully this month's ambu is a good one for VD. Moving on to the Autumn Alter Ego Extravaganza. This is where the trusts you see in front of you are available from special locations. There is a decent number of these trusts that are still used. I've used Adelaide for a couple of different random fights where I needed the extra black mage. Mchuchu is a tank that some people still like. Maybe that's less so now that Valenarol has had his adjustments. But you can pick it up for 2,000 Veiled in Eastern Adeline. This is the Autumn Alter Ego Extravaganza guide in BG Wiki. Very handy. The short list is here. It's the set 2 list. Another trust I would definitely recommend is Sakura because it is a chocobo. Moving on to the December version update. Again, I'm going into this blind as I like to do on these videos, and we'll take a look together at what is in store for December. I know from the announcement that we're getting V25 on Odyssey. Oh boy. Good day, adventurers. Matsui here with the latest on Final Fantasy XI. I can't believe it's already December 2022. With 2023 on the horizon, it's the perfect time to reflect on everything the past year has meant to us. And without further ado, here's the skinny of the December version update. First, I would like to offer a word of apology for the delay of the Voracious Resurgence's next installment. We had intended to bring you Part 2 of Chapter 10, but unfortunately are unable to complete it in time. Please accept our apologies. Now, this is interesting. For me, this seems like a content pushback since I know we are getting V25. I anticipate some sort of content coming at the end of TVR. My bet is on some sort of alliance-based content based on like small leaks and sort of like overall endgame content. Right now, we're in a spot where 11's endgame is kind of like has been reformed. And if you look back to the Rhapsodies of Vana'diel sort of like endgame structure, you had a mix of 6-man, 18-man, and other various fights that were released. You know, Aeonix, 18-man, Omen, 6-man to begin with, HTBFs being released at that period of time, 6-man, Unity mobs. I think you can do Alliance and Unity. It's been a while. But essentially right now we are at a place where Odyssey is 6-man, Odyssey NMs are 6-man, Sortie is 6-man, Dyna D is now an older piece of content, though that is alliance-based and still done by a lot of the player base. In terms of the sort of like premier endgame, we're sort of lacking a piece of alliance content, and I think that's what's coming from TVR along with Prime Weapons. It would make sense considering Aeonix were also a piece of alliance content. So I believe that that's where that's headed. So to me, seeing V25 and then a pushback of TVR is kind of to be expected. Let's move on and see what else I have to say. As the development team is giving its all to bring the storyline to its thrilling conclusion, we are committed to sacrificing nothing to bring you a high-quality tale. While we had considered splitting Part 2 into 2 mini-parts, we believe that experiencing the entirety of Part 2 at once would provide the best narrative experience, and thus currently plan to bring you Part 2 in full in January 2023. I ask for your understanding as we polish up the experience a little bit more. Obviously, no mention of content coming, just the storyline. But if you've been following the storyline, you'll know it's leading to seemingly something a little bit larger than story. For Ambuscade, we've got a return of Meebles and Harpies. The Meebles have undergone some slight tuning to their ability activation delays, and monsters that spawn partway through the battle have had their HP decreased, both of which we hope to help you complete the mechanics as intended. For the Harpies, a Golden Bomb will now spawn when certain conditions are met. Your hint applies many status ailments simultaneously as you are able. We hope you take this into account when considering your party and alter ego composition. I remember this being a fine Ambu, and from the sound of the adjustments here, they've helped the player base. A lot of players believe last month's Ambu was actually harmed by the changes, but that was likely intentional. Odyssey is also seeing its Vengeance cap raised to 25 this month. Defeating a plus 25 boss will let your augments reach rank 30. Though the foes are fierce, we will believe the rewards are commensurate with your efforts, so best of luck. Although we still have a little bit of time until the new year, allow me to take this opportunity to thank you for spending your 2022 with us in Vana'diel. I'm just going to pause here myself. Odyssey, throughout the past year, I forget when I finished my climb for V20 stuff, but it's been a lot of fun progging those battles and ranking up gear and, you know, leveling, like bettering my jobs in order to handle those fights a little bit better. And it's a pretty interesting thing that we're moving into plus 25 coming into the new year. I'm personally looking forward to new challenges here, as well as obviously an interest in what those gear upgrades are going to be. They had said previously that the ranks that are being added are a new type of augment, not a continuation of the previous augments. So it may change up the meta quite a lot if, say, the Neame, I'll post a picture up on the screen here, Neame Path B is what most of the player base uses. C, for its magic damage, just didn't do anything better that anybody was wanting to do. Could very well be best in slot nuking gear for some of the mage jobs if there's a new type of passive or boost added to it. Same thing for the pet jobs being sort of underwhelming across the board on gear like Neame. Now, I bring up Neame because it's the one with a choice. So, of course, Bumba V25 being sort of the ultimate boss of this, it'll be a little bit longer before a lot of the player base even gets to that point. Anyway, there may be some meta changes there, or possibly with any of the other gear in terms of its overall usefulness in best in slot sets and stuff like that. So we'll see when it comes. I'll definitely be doing a review of that gear next week when this information drops. Let's move on. The 20th anniversary was a wonderful event that left us all with many wonderful surprises and friends, both new and old. I hope that returnees in particular are finding your experiences in 11 to be memorable ones, and look forward to playing with you many years into the future. I think right now is a fantastic time for a player to get newly into the game or to return to the game. You have years of stacked content that you can progress through at whichever pace you want, and the devs obviously in their campaigns and as well as their adjustments to things like Ambuscade are making the game very accessible to any player. Until next time, see you in Vana'diel. All right, Ambuscade, replacing the monsters, replacing the rewards, typical. Odyssey, increase vengeance, cap level, increase maximum weapon rank. Should just probably be gear rank, because both the weapons and the gear should be getting rank upgrades. It wouldn't make sense otherwise. Titles, added new titles. From what they've said here, there's no storyline. Maybe defeating like V25 mobs gives you a new title. They haven't talked about any other content coming that might grant new titles. Interesting. So potentially titles obtained from beating the V25 bosses. We'll have to see on update day. Battle-related, remove level difference penalty in certain areas. This usually comes along. Honestly, these two things may be holdovers from the fact that they were going to have the Voracious Resurgence in this update. This removes level difference penalty almost always comes along with a new silver voucher ROE from TVR progress. So unless they're giving us a silver voucher ROE but not story, which I believe they've done in the past, or at least an ROE that didn't connect necessarily to the storyline that was released that month. That's what these two things may be, just a holdover, like they forgot to delete them from the patch notes. Items, added new items. Porter Moogle, add list of supported items. Again, new items. There's no mention of anything here, so it might have just been some cosmetic that's tied to TVR. Anyway, we'll have to see. Either way, this month is going to be an interesting one for Final Fantasy XI's endgame, as well as January. I anticipate January giving us a hint as some sort of content to come in the Mission 10s Part 3 and 4. Anyway, that's it for today's video. I hope that you've learned something today. Definitely tune in next week. I think what's the update day? Today's the 5th. I think it's a week from today, the next update. So this video is going to be out a little bit early, and have fun out there. Remember, we have no campaigns and stuff right now, so utilize this time to get caught up on any ultimate weapon you're working on, whatever you do. If you want to stay in touch, click the Discord link down below and have a chat there. But otherwise, that's it for today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.